The chain snapped with a sickening clunk, and my bike skidded to a stop in the middle of Willow Creek's quietest street. I was 19, broke and furious, mostly at myself for thinking a thrift store bike could survive my reckless rides through town. Then I saw her, Claire, my best friend's mom, standing in her driveway, watching me with those hazel eyes that seemed to see right through my tough girl act. I'd known Claire for years, ever since I started hanging out with her daughter Mia in middle school. Claire was 42, a single mom with a laugh that could warm a room and a way of making you feel like you mattered. She was the kind of woman who'd bake cookies for our sleepovers, but also fix a leaky faucet without breaking a sweat. That afternoon, as I stood there cursing my broken bike, she waved me over, her auburn hair catching the late summer sun. "Riley, you look like you're fighting a war with that thing," she called, her voice teasing but kind. "Bring it to the garage. Let's fix it." I wheeled the bike over, my sneakers scuffing the pavement. The garage smelled of motor oil and fresh-cut grass, a mix that felt oddly comforting. Claire was already pulling tools from a workbench, her movements confident, like she'd done this 100 times. "What happened?" she asked, kneeling beside me to inspect the chain. Her arm brushed mine and I froze, hyper-aware of the warmth of her skin. I muttered something about hitting a pothole, but my voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. "You've got to be gentler with this old thing," she said, her fingers deftly removing the broken chain. Her hands were strong, callous from years of fixing things, bikes, sinks, maybe even hearts. I watched her work, mesmerized by the way she handled the tools, her focus unwavering. "You're always rushing, Riley. Slow down sometimes. Let things breathe." I laughed, trying to shake off the weird flutter in my chest. "Says the woman who rebuilt Mia's treehouse in one weekend." She grinned, and for a moment the world was just us, the bike, and that garage. I didn't know then that this moment would unravel everything I thought I knew about myself. Claire handed me a wrench, her fingers lingering on mine. "Hold this," she said softly. "You're doing this with me." I nodded, my throat tight. I wasn't just fixing a bike. I was crossing a line I didn't even know existed. We worked in silence for a while, the only sounds the clink of metal and our steady breathing. I stole glances at her, her furrowed brow, the way her lips pressed together when she concentrated. She caught me once, her eyes locking onto mine, and I swear my heart stopped. "What?" she asked, a playful edge to her voice. I mumbled something about grease on her cheek, but there wasn't any. She just smiled like she knew something I didn't. By the time the bike was fixed, the sun was dipping low, casting long shadows across the garage. I stood wiping my hands on my jeans and Claire stepped closer, inspecting our work. "Good as new," she said, but her eyes were on me, not the bike. Then out of nowhere, she reached out and tucked a strand of my hair behind my ear. Her touch was soft, deliberate, and it sent a jolt through me I couldn't explain. "You're stronger than you think, Riley," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to say something, anything, but my mouth wouldn't work. All I could do was stare at her, my pulse hammering. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was Mia's mom. She was supposed to be safe, familiar, untouchable. But in that moment she was something else entirely. Someone who saw me, really saw me, in a way no one ever had. I rode home that evening, the bike humming smoothly beneath me, but my mind was a mess. Claire's touch lingered like a burn, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just stumbled into something bigger than myself, something that could break everything apart, or put it all back together. The next day I avoided Mia's house. I told myself it was because I had work at the diner, but deep down I knew it was Claire. I couldn't face her, not with the way my stomach twisted every time I thought about her hand on my hair. But Willow Creek was small, and avoiding someone was like trying to avoid the sun. 2 days later, I ran into her at the grocery store, her cart full of vegetables and that same warm smile. "Riley," she said, like my name was a secret she cherished. "You didn't come by yesterday. Mia missed you." I mumbled an excuse, my face burning. She stepped closer, her voice low. "You okay? You seem off." Her concern was so genuine it hurt. I wanted to tell her everything. How her touch had flipped a switch in me, how I couldn't stop thinking about her. But I just nodded and bolted for the checkout. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I'd never thought about women that way before. Boys, sure. I'd had crushes, awkward dates, the usual high school stuff. But this was different. It was Claire, her strength, her kindness, the way she made me feel like I could be more than a screw-up kid from a broken home. I didn't have a word for it yet, but it was real and it was terrifying. By the end of the week, I couldn't stay away anymore. I showed up at Mia's house, pretending I was there for her, but my eyes kept finding Claire. She was in the kitchen chopping onions, her hair tied back in a messy bun. "Riley, you're just in time," she said, like nothing had changed. But everything had. I could feel it in the air between us, thick with something unspoken. Mia dragged me to her room to talk about some guy she liked, but my mind was downstairs with Claire. When I finally went to grab a glass of water, she was there alone, leaning against the counter. "You've been quiet," she said, her eyes searching mine. "What's going on in that head of yours?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. "How do you tell your best friend's mom that she's the reason you can't sleep? That she's the reason you're questioning everything you thought you were?" I just stood there, drowning in her gaze, knowing that whatever came next would change us both forever. The kitchen felt smaller than usual, the air heavy with the scent of onions and something I couldn't name. Claire's question hung between us, her hazel eyes pinning me in place. I gripped the glass of water like it was the only thing keeping me grounded, my knuckles white against the cold surface. "I'm fine," I lied, my voice barely audible. Claire tilted her head, her expression softening, like she could see the storm raging inside me. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her lavender shampoo, and my heart slammed against my ribs. "Riley," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "you don't have to hide from me." I wanted to run. I wanted to stay. I wanted to tell her that every time she looked at me, I felt like I was falling apart and coming alive all at once. But Mia's laughter echoed from upstairs, a sharp reminder of where we were, who we were. Claire was her mom, not some stranger I could spill my heart to. I mumbled something about needing to get home and bolted for the door, my water untouched. The next few days were torture. I threw myself into work at the diner, slinging burgers and wiping counters until my hands ached, but Claire's face haunted me. Her smile, her touch, the way she said my name, it was like she'd carved herself into my brain. I started noticing things I hadn't before. The way my coworker Jess's laugh made my stomach flip, the way a woman's hand brushing mine when I handed her change sent a spark through me. Was this who I was? Had it always been there, waiting for Claire to wake it up? I didn't have answers, but I couldn't avoid Mia forever. She texted me nonstop, begging me to come over for a movie night. I knew Claire would be there, and the thought made my palms sweat. But I missed Mia, and maybe, just maybe, I could act normal around her mom. So I went. Claire answered the door, her hair loose and her smile as warm as ever. "Riley, you made it," she said, like she'd been waiting for me. My throat tightened, and I managed a nod before slipping past her to join Mia on the couch. We watched some cheesy rom-com, but I couldn't focus. Claire was in the kitchen, humming softly as she made popcorn, and every note pulled my attention like a magnet. Halfway through the movie, Mia fell asleep, her head lolling against the armrest. I should have woken her, but I didn't. Instead, I found myself in the kitchen, drawn to Claire like a moth to a flame. She was washing dishes, her sleeves rolled up, her hands moving with that same quiet confidence I'd seen in the garage. "Couldn't handle the movie?" she teased, glancing over her shoulder. I laughed, but it came out shaky. "It's not really my thing." I leaned against the counter, trying to act casual, but my heart was racing. Claire dried her hands and turned to face me, her expression unreadable. "You've been avoiding me," she said, not accusing, just stating a fact. Did I do something wrong? The question hit me like a punch. "No," I said too quickly. "It's not you. It's me." My voice cracked and I hated how vulnerable I sounded. Claire's eyes softened and she stepped closer, her hand hovering like she wanted to touch me but didn't. "Talk to me, Riley," she said. "Whatever it is, I'm here." I don't know what made me do it. Maybe the way her voice wrapped around me, maybe the way her eyes held no judgment. The words spilled out before I could stop them. "I can't stop thinking about you," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "That day in the garage you touched my hair, and it's like you flipped a switch. I don't know what this is, but it's killing me. The silence that followed was deafening. Claire's eyes widened, and for a moment I thought I'd ruined everything. Then she took a shaky breath, her hand reaching for mine, her fingers warm and steady. "Riley," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea how long I've been trying not to feel this." My heart stopped. She felt it too. This thing between us wasn't just in my head. But before I could process it, Mia stirred on the couch and Claire dropped my hand like it burned. "We can't," she whispered, her eyes pleading. "Not like this." I nodded, my chest aching, but I didn't trust myself to speak. I grabbed my jacket and left, the night air cold against my flushed skin. Claire was right, we couldn't. She was Mia's mom, 42 to my 19, and Willow Creek wasn't exactly a haven for two women falling for each other. But knowing that didn't make it hurt any less. The next week I tried to move on. I went on a date with a guy from the diner, hoping it would snap me out of it. He was nice, funny even, but kissing him felt like kissing a stranger. All I could think about was Claire, her hands, her voice, the way she made me feel seen. I ended the date early and rode my bike through town, the wind stinging my eyes. When I passed Mia's house, I saw Claire in the driveway watering her flowers. She looked up and our eyes met, and for a moment it was just us again. No Mia, no rules, no consequences. I slowed down, my hands gripping the handlebars. She set the watering can down and walked toward me, her expression torn between fear and something else, something that looked a lot like hope. "Riley," she said, her voice low, "we need to talk." The street lamp cast a soft glow over Claire's face, highlighting the worry lines etched around her eyes. I stopped my bike, my legs shaky as I dismounted. "Talk about what?" I asked, though I already knew. My voice sounded braver than I felt. Claire glanced back at the house like she was checking for Mia, then stepped closer. "About us," she said, her words careful but heavy. "About what you said in the kitchen. I haven't stopped thinking about it either." My breath caught. Hearing her admit it made it real, and that terrified me. "Claire, you said we can't." I reminded her, my voice cracking. "You were right. Mia's my best friend. This town, it's not exactly open-minded." She winced like my words had stung, but she didn't back away. "I know," she said. "But I've spent my whole life doing what's right for everyone else. For Mia, for this town, for my ex-husband. I'm tired, Riley. I'm tired of pretending I don't feel something when I'm around you." Her words hit me like a wave, pulling me under. I wanted to reach for her to close the distance between us, but fear held me back. "What are we supposed to do?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "If Mia finds out, it'll break her. And if anyone else does." Claire's jaw tightened and she looked away, her eyes glistening. "I don't have the answers," she said. "But I know I can't keep ignoring this. Can you?" I couldn't. That was the problem. Every moment I spent away from her felt like I was suffocating, but being near her was just as dangerous. I shook my head, unable to form words. Claire reached out, her hand brushing my arm, and the touch sent a shiver through me. "Meet me tomorrow," she said. "At the old park by the river. 7 o'clock. We'll figure this out." I nodded, my heart pounding, and rode off before I could change my mind. That night I barely slept, my mind racing with what-ifs. What if Mia found out? What if the town turned on us? What if this was a mistake? But beneath the fear was something stronger. A need to know what this was, to see where it could go. The next evening I found Claire at the park, sitting on a bench by the river. The setting sun painted the water gold, and she looked like she belonged there, her auburn hair glowing in the light. She stood when she saw me, her smile nervous but warm. "You came," she said, like she hadn't been sure I would. "Of course I did," I said, sitting beside her. The air was cool, the park empty except for us. For the first time it felt like we could breathe, like the world wasn't watching. We really talked for hours. She told me about her marriage, how it fell apart when she realized she'd been hiding who she was. "I loved Mia's dad," she said, "but I was never in love with him. I didn't even know what that felt like until..." She trailed off, her eyes meeting mine. "Until what?" I pressed, my heart in my throat. "Until you," she said, her voice barely a whisper. The words hung between us, heavy and electric. I leaned in, or maybe she did, and suddenly our lips were inches apart. My pulse roared in my ears, but before anything could happen, a dog barked nearby, shattering the moment. We pulled back, both of us breathing hard, the weight of what we'd almost done settling over us. "We need to be careful," Claire said, her voice shaky. "If we do this, it's not just about us. It's Mia. It's everything." I nodded, but my mind was screaming. I didn't want to be careful. I wanted her laughter, her strength, her heart. But she was right. This wasn't just our story. It was Mia's too, and the thought of hurting her twisted my gut. The next few weeks were a blur of stolen moments. A brush of hands when Mia wasn't looking. A lingering glance across the dinner table. A late-night text that made my heart race. Each one felt like a step towards something inevitable, but also like a step closer to disaster. Mia started to notice I was distracted, asking why I was acting so weird. I brushed it off, hating myself for lying to her. Then one night, Claire asked me to meet her at the garage again. "I need to show you something," she said over the phone, her voice urgent. When I got there, the garage was lit by a single bulb, and Claire was holding a small wooden box. "I made this," she said, handing it to me. Inside was a carved bicycle chain link, polished smooth with my initials etched into it. "I thought you should have something to remind you that you're stronger than you think." I stared at the carving, my eyes burning. No one had ever done something like that for me. I reached for her hand, and this time, neither of us pulled away. Our fingers laced together, and for a moment the world was perfect. But perfection doesn't last in Willow Creek. The garage felt like a sanctuary, the carved chain link heavy in my hand. Claire's fingers were warm against mine, her eyes searching for something I wasn't sure I could give. "What are we doing, Claire?" I whispered, my voice breaking. "This feels right, but it's so wrong." She squeezed my hand, her expression torn. "I don't know," she admitted. "All I know is I've never felt this alive. Not in years. Maybe not ever." Her honesty cut through me, and before I could think, I leaned in and kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, like we were both afraid it would break us. Then her hand cupped my face, and the kiss deepened, urgent and desperate, like we'd been starving for it. The world fell away, no Mia, no Willow Creek, no rules. Just us, tangled in a moment that felt like it could last forever. But forever doesn't exist in a garage. The sound of a car door slamming outside snapped us apart, our breaths ragged. Claire's eyes were wide, her lips flushed, and I knew mine looked the same. "That's Mia," she whispered, panic creeping into her voice. "She's early." I scrambled to my feet, shoving the carved chain link into my pocket. Mia's voice called out from the driveway, cheerful and oblivious. "Mom? Riley? You guys in there?" Claire smoothed her hair, her hands shaking, and I tried to look normal, but my heart was a jackhammer. When Mia walked in, she didn't seem to notice anything wrong, but her eyes lingered on us like some part of her sensed the shift. "Riley, you staying for dinner?" Mia asked, tossing her backpack onto the workbench. I mumbled an excuse and fled, my lips still tingling from Claire's kiss. I rode home in a daze, the carved chain link burning a hole in my pocket. That kiss had changed everything. There was no going back. The next day I avoided Mia's calls. Guilt gnawed at me, sharp and relentless. She was my best friend, the one who'd been there through every fight with my mom, every failed test, every stupid crush. And now I was lying to her, falling for her mom of all people. I wanted to tell her to come clean, but how do you say something like that? "Hey Mia, I'm in love with your mom?" It was unthinkable. Claire texted me that night, "We need to talk. Meet me at the park again. Please." I went because I couldn't not go. She was there, sitting on the same bench, her face pale in the moonlight. "I can't stop thinking about you," she said, her voice raw. "But this is tearing me apart. Mia's my daughter, Riley. If she finds out..." "I know," I said, my throat tight. "I don't want to hurt her either. But I don't know how to stop this." I reached for her hand and she didn't pull away. We sat there holding on to each other, the river rushing past us like time we couldn't slow down. We agreed to keep it secret, to figure out what this was before we let it destroy everything. But secrets in Willow Creek don't stay buried. A week later, Mia cornered me at the diner, her eyes blazing. "What's going on with you?" she demanded. "You're acting weird, and I saw you leave our house the other night looking like you'd seen a ghost. Are you mad at me?" "No," I said, my stomach twisting. "It's not you. I'm just dealing with stuff." It was a weak lie, and Mia's frown told me she didn't buy it. She crossed her arms, her voice sharp. "If it's not me, then what? You're always at our house, but you barely talk to me anymore. And Mom's been acting weird too." My blood ran cold. Had she seen something? Heard something? I forced a smile, hating myself for it. "Everything's fine, Mia. Promise." But as she walked away, I knew she didn't believe me. The guilt was suffocating, but the thought of losing Claire was worse. Claire and I stole moments when we could. A coffee shop on the edge of town, a walk by the river, a quick touch in the garage when Mia was at school. Each one felt like a lifeline, but also like a ticking bomb. I started noticing whispers at the diner, glances from neighbors who'd seen us together. Willow Creek was small and people talked. I didn't care what they thought of me, but Claire? She'd lived here her whole life. She had a reputation, a daughter, a life to protect. One night, as we sat in her car in an empty parking lot, she told me about the first time she'd felt this way about a woman. "I was 20, she said, her voice distant. "Her name was Sarah. We were friends like you and Mia. I loved her, but I was too scared to do anything about it. I married Mia's dad instead, thinking it would fix me." She laughed, bitter and sad. "It didn't." I reached for her hand, my heart aching. "You're not broken," I said. "You're you." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I wish it were that simple," she said. "But this town, this life, it's not built for people like us." Her words stayed with me, heavy and true. I wanted to believe we could make it work, that love could be enough. But deep down I knew she was right. Something was coming and it was going to hurt. The air in Willow Creek felt heavier now, like the town itself was closing in on us. Claire and I were careful, but not careful enough. A lingering glance at the grocery store, a moment too long in the garage, small things that added up in a place where everyone knew your business. I could feel the weight of it, the way people's eyes followed us, their whispers trailing like smoke. Mia was getting suspicious. She'd always been sharp, picking up on things I tried to hide. One afternoon, she showed up at the diner during my shift, her arms crossed and her face set. "Riley, we need to talk," she said, her voice low but firm. My stomach dropped. I nodded, leading her to a booth in the back, away from the lunchtime crowd. "What's going on with you and my mom?" she asked, not wasting time. Her eyes were hard, searching mine for answers I wasn't ready to give. "You're always around her, and she's different when you're there. Like she's hiding something." I froze, my mind racing for a lie that wouldn't sound like one. "We're just friends," I said, but the words felt hollow even to me. Mia's jaw tightened and she leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Don't lie to me, Riley. I know you. And I know her. Something's going on." I wanted to tell her everything, to beg for her forgiveness, but fear clamped my mouth shut. "Mia, I swear it's nothing," I said, my voice shaking. She stared at me for a long moment, then stood, her chair scraping the floor. "If you're lying to me, Riley, we're done," she said and walked out. Her words cut deeper than I expected. Mia had been my anchor for years, the one person who never judged me, even when I messed up. Losing her would be like losing a piece of myself. But losing Claire? That felt like losing everything. That night I met Claire at the river again, our usual spot. She looked tired, her eyes shadowed with worry. "Mia's asking questions," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "She's not stupid, Riley. She knows something's up." I nodded, my throat tight. "She confronted me today." I didn't know what to say. Claire reached for my hand, her touch grounding me even as my world spun. "We can't keep doing this," she said, but her fingers tightened around mine like she was afraid to let go. "If she finds out from someone else, it'll destroy her." I knew she was right, but the thought of ending things with her made my chest ache. What if we told her? I asked, desperate. Maybe she'd understand. Maybe. Claire shook her head, her eyes glistening. "She's 19, Riley. She's not ready to hear that her mom's in love with her best friend. And this town, they'd make her life hell for it. She paused, her voice breaking. They'd make your life hell too. The truth of her words settled over me. Heavy and cold. Willow Creek wasn't a place where two women could just be together. Not without consequences. I'd seen how people talked about the gay couple who ran the bookstore on Main Street, the way they were tolerated but never accepted. Claire had a life here, a daughter, a home. I was just a kid barely out of high school, with nothing to lose but everything to gain. I don't care what they think, I said, my voice fierce. I care about you. Claire's eyes softened and she pulled me into a hug, her arms strong and warm. For a moment, I let myself believe we could find a way. But then she pulled back, her expression resolute. We need to stop, she said. For Mia. For you. You deserve a life where you don't have to hide. Her words were like a knife, sharp and final. I wanted to argue, to fight for us, but the look in her eyes told me she'd made up her mind. I rode home in tears, the carved chain link in my pocket, a painful reminder of what we'd almost had. For the next few days, I avoided Mia's house, ignored Claire's texts, and threw myself into work. But the emptiness followed me, a hole I couldn't fill. I started questioning everything. My feelings, my identity, my place in this town. Was I really in love with Claire? Or was I just lost, clinging to the first person who made me feel seen? Then Mia called, her voice frantic. Riley, you need to come over. Now. I didn't ask questions. I grabbed my bike and rode to her house, my heart pounding. When I got there, Mia was in the living room, her eyes red from crying. Claire was there too, her face pale, a notebook in her hands. I found this, Mia said, her voice shaking as she pointed to the notebook. It's Mom's. She wrote about you, Riley. About feelings. Her voice broke and my stomach dropped. Claire's eyes met mine, full of guilt and fear. Mia, I can explain, Claire started, but Mia cut her off. Explain what? She snapped. That you're in love with my best friend? That you've been lying to me? The hurt in her voice was raw, and it broke something in me. I wanted to disappear, to take back every touch, every glance. But it was too late. The truth was out, and it was tearing us apart. The living room felt like a battlefield, Mia's words hanging in the air like shrapnel. I stood frozen, my eyes darting between her tear-streaked face and Claire's, which was pale with regret. The notebook lay open on the coffee table, its pages filled with Claire's neat handwriting. Words I hadn't seen but could guess. Words that had exposed us. Mia, please, Claire said, her voice trembling. Let me explain. She reached for her daughter, but Mia flinched, stepping back like the touch burned. Explain what, Mom? She said, her voice raw. That you've been sneaking around with Riley? My best friend? How long has this been going on? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. The guilt was suffocating, choking any words I might have used to defend myself. Claire's eyes met mine, pleading for help, but I was drowning too. It's not what you think, I finally managed, my voice weak. We didn't mean for this to happen. Mia laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Didn't mean for it to happen? You think that makes it okay? You're my best friend, Riley. And you? She turned to Claire, her eyes blazing. You're my mom. How could you do this to me? Claire's face crumpled and she sank onto the couch, the notebook falling from her hands. I never wanted to hurt you, she said, her voice barely audible. I love you, Mia. More than anything. But I fell for Riley. I tried to fight it, but I couldn't. The words hit me like a punch even now in the middle of this mess. She loved me. She'd said it out loud, and despite everything, my heart soared for a fleeting second before crashing back to reality. Mia was staring at us, her expression a mix of betrayal and disbelief. You love her, she whispered like the words were poison. She's my age, Mom. She's Riley. I know, Claire said, her voice breaking. I know it's wrong. I know it's complicated. But it's real. She looked at me, her eyes full of pain and something else. Resolve maybe, or desperation. I'm so sorry, Mia. I should have told you. Mia shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. I don't even know who you are anymore, she said, and stormed out of the room. The slam of her bedroom door echoed through the house, and I felt it in my bones. Claire buried her face in her hands, and I wanted to go to her, to hold her, but I couldn't move. This was my fault as much as hers. I should go, I said, my voice hollow. Claire looked up, her eyes red. Riley, wait, she said, but I shook my head. I can't stay, I said. Not now. I grabbed my bike from the driveway and rode into the night, the cold air biting my skin. I didn't know where I was going, just away, as far as I could get from the wreckage we'd made. The next few days were a blur of pain and silence. Mia wouldn't answer my texts or calls. Claire tried reaching out, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. I felt like a coward, hiding from the mess I'd helped create, but facing it felt impossible. I kept the carved chain link in my pocket, running my fingers over it like a talisman, a reminder of what we'd had and what we'd lost. Then I heard the rumors. Willow Creek was buzzing, as it always did when secrets spilled. Someone had seen Claire and me at the park, our hands brushing, our faces too close. The whispers spread like wildfire. Claire, the single mom, and me, the troubled kid. I overheard them at the diner, saw the looks from customers who used to smile at me. Disgusting, one woman muttered. She's young enough to be her daughter, another said. I wanted to scream, to tell them they didn't understand, but what could I say? They weren't entirely wrong. I went to the river hoping to find some peace, but all I could think about was Claire, her laugh, her touch, the way she'd made me feel like I was enough. I was so lost in thought that I didn't hear Mia approach until she was standing beside me, her arms crossed, her eyes hard. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, her voice low but steady. I turned, startled, and saw the hurt etched into her face. I thought we were friends, Riley. I thought you trusted me. I wanted to, I said, my voice shaking. But I was scared. I didn't even understand it myself at first. It just happened. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to meet her gaze. I love her, Mia. I didn't mean to, but I do. Mia's jaw clenched, and for a moment I thought she'd walk away. But then she sighed, her shoulders slumping. I don't get it, she said. But I know you, Riley. You're not a liar. And Mom, she's been happier these past few weeks than I've seen her in years. I hate this, but I don't hate you. Her words were a lifeline, but they didn't erase the pain. What do we do now? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I don't know, Mia said. But I need time. And you and Mom, you need to figure out what this means. Because this town won't make it easy. She turned to leave, then paused, looking back at me. Don't hurt her, Riley. She's been through enough. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. Mia walked away, and I sat by the river, clutching the carved chain link, wondering if love was worth all this pain. The river glittered under the afternoon sun, its surface calm despite the chaos in my heart. Mia's words echoed in my mind, don't hurt her, Riley. I wanted to promise her I wouldn't, but how could I? Claire and I were a spark in a town full of dry tinder, and everything we touched seemed to catch fire. I went to see Claire that evening, my nerves frayed. She opened the door, her face tired but soft when she saw me. Riley, she said, her voice a mix of relief and worry. I wasn't sure you'd come back. I had to, I said, stepping inside. The house felt different now, like the air itself was holding its breath. Mia was at a friend's, giving us space to talk, though I wasn't sure if that was a blessing or a curse. Claire led me to the kitchen, where we sat across from each other, the table a barrier we didn't know how to cross. I talked to Mia, I said, breaking the silence. She knows. She's hurt, but she doesn't hate us. Claire's eyes widened, and she reached for my hand, her touch grounding me. She found my journal, she said. I wrote about you, about how you made me feel alive again. I never meant for her to see it. I know, I said, squeezing her hand. But she did. And now we have to decide what comes next. The weight of those words settled over us, heavy and real. Claire's eyes searched mine, and I saw the same fear and hope I felt mirrored in her gaze. I love you, Riley, she said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. But this town, this life, it's not built for us. I've lived here my whole life, and I know how cruel it can be. I don't want you to go through that. I don't care about the town, I said, my voice fierce. I care about you. I care about us. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't that simple. Mia's face flashed in my mind, her pain a reminder of what we'd already broken. And the whispers at the diner, the judgmental glances, they weren't just noise. They were a warning. Claire stood, pulling me into her arms, and for a moment, I let myself melt into her. Her warmth, her strength, the way she made me feel like I could be more than I was, it was everything. But it wasn't enough to erase the reality waiting outside her door. "We could leave," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "Start over somewhere else. Somewhere no one knows us." Claire pulled back, her eyes searching mine. "Riley, you're 19, she said gently. "You have your whole life ahead of you. I can't ask you to give up everything for me." "You're not asking," I said. "I'm offering." But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Could I really leave Willow Creek? My job, my mom, Mia? And Claire, she built a life here, raised a daughter, put down roots. Asking her to leave was asking her to tear herself apart. We talked for hours, weighing every option, every consequence. In the end, we decided to try, for us, for Mia, for the chance at something real. We'd be careful, keep things quiet until we figured out a plan. Mia deserved that much, and so did we. The next few months were a delicate dance. We stole moments when we could, but we kept Mia in the loop, slowly rebuilding her trust. It wasn't easy, she was still hurt, still confused, but she loved us both, and that love was stronger than her anger. The town, though, was another story. The rumors grew louder, and Claire started getting sidelong glances at the grocery store, cold shoulders from neighbors she'd known for years. I saw the toll it took on her, the way her smile dimmed, and it broke my heart. One day, as we sat by the river, Claire handed me a letter. "I applied for a job in Seattle," she said, her voice steady but nervous. "It's a fresh start for me and Mia. And I want you to come with us." My heart leapt, but fear followed close behind. Seattle was a world away, a place where we could be ourselves, but it meant leaving everything I knew. I looked at the carved chain link in my hand, its edges worn smooth from months of worry. "What about Mia?" I asked. Claire smiled, a real smile this time. "She's coming around. She wants us to be happy. And she wants to get out of this town as much as I do." It wasn't a perfect ending. There were still hurdles, convincing my mom, finding a job, facing a new city with no safety net. But as I looked at Claire, her hand in mine, I knew it was worth it. Love wasn't just the spark in the garage or the kiss in the kitchen. It was the choice to keep going, to build something new despite the odds. We left Willow Creek in the spring, the three of us packed into Claire's old SUV, the carved chain link tucked safely in my pocket. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. Claire reached for my hand, and Mia, in the back seat, caught my eye in the rearview mirror and smiled. It wasn't easy, but it was ours. A family forged not just from love, but from the courage to choose it.